Do you believe that life can change completely just by changing your thoughts? Have you ever imagined being at rock bottom, hopeless, and still finding a way to transform everything around you? What if I told you that an ordinary woman named Olivia Bennett experienced exactly that and proved through her own life that the law of attraction really works? This isn't just another motivational story. It's a real-life account full of details that will move you and perhaps even change the way you see your own life. Olivia Bennett was 32 years old and carried on her shoulders the weight of a life that seemed to have fallen apart. Since she was a child, she had dreamed of becoming a recognized interior designer, imagining herself transforming houses into homes full of warmth and beauty. She was creative, talented, and had even studied at a good university. But, as happens to so many people, life seemed to have other plans. Reality didn't match her dreams. After graduation, Olivia managed to get a few temporary jobs, but nothing stable. She accepted low-paying jobs in small offices, sometimes even in furniture stores, believing that each step would bring her closer to something bigger. But time passed and nothing changed. What followed was a string of disappointments. A 5-year relationship ended painfully, leaving Olivia not only with a broken heart, but also with debts the couple had incurred together. Without support, she had to handle financial obligations she could not meet alone. Bills piled up on the kitchen table. Rent was overdue. Her credit card maxed out. Collections arriving in the mail almost daily. Olivia, who had always prided herself on being responsible, now found herself sinking into a sea of debt with no apparent way out. At night, lying in bed, she cried silently, wondering where she had gone wrong. She felt the world was closed to her. Every morning, getting up to face the day was a challenge. Gradually, her confidence began to fade. Olivia avoided meeting friends because she didn't want to answer the inevitable question, "How's work going?" She smiled politely, but inside she felt ashamed. The ended relationship, the debts, the stagnant career all seemed to scream that she was a failure. It was in this state of near despair that Olivia first encountered the idea of the law of attraction. One night, after an exhausting day at her temporary job in a home decor store, she got home and turned on the TV just to distract herself. Switching channels, she stopped at a documentary that spoke about the power of the mind, how our thoughts and emotions could shape reality. The program featured stories of people who had changed their lives by applying a principle called the law of attraction. Olivia listened with some skepticism. For someone who could barely pay rent, it was almost impossible to believe that simply thinking positively could change anything. Yet at the same time, there was a nearly extinguished spark of hope inside her, something that whispered, "What if it's true? What if I can change my life somehow?" She didn't turn off the TV. She watched until the end, eyes brimming with tears, as if that message had been made for her. In the days that followed, the idea didn't leave her mind. At work, while helping customers, she remembered the stories from the documentary. At night, she searched for videos on YouTube about the topic and was amazed by testimonials from ordinary people like herself who claimed to have gained better jobs, healthier relationships, and even material possessions just by changing their mindset. Olivia wanted to believe, but something inside her still resisted. After all, how could someone attract prosperity when they didn't even know how to pay the month's bills? One night, alone in her small apartment, Olivia decided to write down everything she was feeling in a notebook. She put on paper her fears, her sadness, and also her forgotten dreams. She wrote about the house she wanted, the dream job, the fulfilling life she had always imagined but seemed so distant. When she finished, she realized that for the first time in months, she felt a sense of relief, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. It was at that moment that she made a silent but powerful choice to give the law of attraction a chance. She didn't know exactly where to start or if it would work, but something in her heart told her she had nothing to lose. The next day, Olivia stopped by a bookstore on her way home and bought a book on the subject. Back at her apartment, she made some tea and began to read. Every page seemed to speak directly to her, showing that the life she was living wasn't just the result of circumstances, but also of the thoughts and emotions she had been nurturing. She realized that for years she had focused on her failures, her frustrations, and everything that went wrong. Could it be that unknowingly she was attracting more of what she didn't want? The words in the book left her intrigued and, in a way, hopeful. It was as if a new world had opened before her eyes, a world where she was not just a victim of circumstances, but an active creator of her reality. Still, Olivia couldn't shake her doubts. Was it just an illusion? Could it really be possible to change her life just by changing her thoughts? She looked around her small, messy apartment, the bills scattered across the table, and felt a mix of discouragement and determination to fight. That night, before going to sleep, she decided to try one of the simple practices suggested in the book, closing her eyes and imagining in detail the life she wanted to have. Olivia took a deep breath and allowed herself to dream. She visualized walking through a bright house with white walls and large windows filled with plants and beautiful furniture. She imagined herself smiling, working on creative projects, welcoming satisfied clients. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe, even if just for a few minutes, that it was possible. When she opened her eyes, tears ran down her face. She didn't know if she was crying from belief or from fear of being deceived again. But one thing was certain: something inside her had changed. And so, amidst debts, frustrations, and uncertainties, Olivia took the first step on a journey that would change her life forever. A journey in which she would learn firsthand the power of the law of attraction. What she didn't yet know was that this was only the beginning of a transformation so profound that it continues to amaze everyone who hears her story. The morning after that first visualization exercise, Olivia woke with a different feeling. It wasn't exactly happiness, but there was an unusual lightness in her chest. The alarm went off at 6:30 as usual, and for a few seconds she lay there, remembering the vivid image of the bright house she had visualized the night before. Instinctively, she closed her eyes again and repeated the scene in her mind. She felt the mix of hope and fear once more, but this time decided not to push the feeling away. She wanted to hold on to it. The book she had bought would become from that on an inseparable companion. Olivia read its pages every day on public transport, going to and from her temporary job. Each chapter seemed to challenge her old beliefs while planting a new seed of possibility. One passage in particular caught her attention. The universe responds to what you focus your energy on. If you focus on scarcity, you will have more scarcity. If you focus on abundance, it will come to you. That phrase echoed in her mind. Olivia realized that for years she had lived focused only on what was missing: money, love, recognition. Everything in her life had been mentally described in terms of absence. It was as if day by day she kept telling herself, "I don't have enough." And perhaps unknowingly, the universe simply confirmed it, bringing more situations that reinforced lack. Determined to try something different, Olivia decided to create a small daily routine. Every morning, before leaving the house, she would take the notebook where she had written her fears and start a new page. This time, however, it wasn't to list problems, but to write positive affirmations. She wrote as if she had already achieved what she desired. "I have a home full of light and beauty. I am prosperous and successful in my work. My life is balanced and harmonious." At first, she felt foolish. The words on paper seemed too far from reality. But even so, she persisted. The first week was strange. Olivia still faced the same concrete problems. Bills kept arriving. Her salary was insufficient. Worries persisted. But there was a subtle change within her. Small moments of optimism began to appear. She caught herself smiling on the subway, imagining how her life would be when everything changed. Instead of mentally complaining about her clients at work, she began silently thanking the opportunity to interact with people who enjoyed decor. It was during this week that a coworker named Sarah said something that seemed more than coincidental. While arranging the store display, Sarah said, "You have so much talent, Olivia. Whenever you touch a decor detail, the space comes alive. You should be somewhere else, you know. This place is too small for you." Olivia remained silent for a few seconds, absorbing those words. Perhaps if she had heard this a month earlier, she would have responded with sarcasm or disbelief. But at that moment, she felt it was a sign, as if the universe was using Sarah to remind her that her dreams weren't crazy. That night, upon arriving home, Olivia opened the notebook again and wrote in big letters, "The universe is showing me opportunities." In the following days, she began practicing visualization with greater dedication. Every night before bed, she closed her eyes and mentally recreated the scene of her dream house. But she didn't stop at the image. She began engaging all her senses, imagining the smell of flowers in a vase on the table, the sound of the wind entering through the window, the feeling of walking barefoot on a soft rug. The more details she added, the more real it became in her mind. However, the process wasn't without difficulties. There were days when Olivia felt exhausted, and the old voice. Olivia had already been practicing her visualizations for several weeks, writing affirmations and keeping her vision board in sight every day. She felt lighter, more hopeful, and even more confident. The small signs appearing in her life seemed like proof that she was finally on the right path. But, as if the universe wanted to test her determination, it was during this period that the greatest challenges began to emerge. On a cold autumn morning, Olivia received an unexpected letter. It was from the bank, informing her that her credit card debt had been sent to collections. The words printed on the paper felt like punches to her stomach. She felt her body shake, her breath quicken, and for a moment, all her old fears returned. The image of the bright house, the positive affirmations, and the vision board seemed to dissolve in the face of the harsh reality printed on that notice. For a few minutes, Olivia allowed herself to sink into despair. She sat on the sofa, holding the letter in her hands, and cried silently. She thought about how unfair it all was, how impossible it seemed to believe in the law of attraction when real life was crushing her with numbers and deadlines. The old voice of disbelief returned with force. "See, I told you it doesn't work. You're just a lost dreamer." But then, almost reflexively, Olivia remembered something she had read in the book she had found in the subway. The greatest tests arise when you are about to shift your energy permanently. The universe asks, do you really believe, or will you give up? Those words echoed inside her like a call. Still crying, she took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and silently decided, "I will not give up. I will trust, even if everything around me says otherwise." This decision didn't erase the debt or immediately solve the problem, but it changed how Olivia chose to respond. Instead of succumbing to panic, she decided she would handle it as best as she could without losing faith in her journey. In her notebook, she wrote in large letters, "Even in the midst of chaos, I choose to believe that everything is conspiring in my favor." In the following days, she continued her practices with even more discipline. Each morning, she wrote affirmations not only about prosperity, but also about strength and resilience. She visualized receiving good news, imagined finding unexpected solutions. And, curiously, she began to notice subtle changes in her demeanor. When she called the bank to negotiate the debt, her voice was firmer. Instead of pleading, she spoke with confidence, like someone who believed they deserved a chance. The representative, surprised, offered a renegotiation better than she had expected. It wasn't a complete solution, but it was a step. Still, Olivia knew the journey wouldn't be easy. There were days when fear still dominated her. Sometimes she woke in the middle of the night, thinking about bills, past failures, everything that could go wrong. At those moments, she would look at her vision board, lit by the faint glow of the lamp, and force herself to remember, "I am not defined by current circumstances. I am creating something new." It was during one of these sleepless nights that Olivia had an idea. If the law of attraction depended on focus and energy, perhaps she could use creativity to reinforce her visualizations even more. She picked up her notebook again and, instead of writing only affirmations, began drafting letters to herself as if they were from her future self. She wrote, for example, "Dear Olivia, congratulations on your new home. It is everything you ever dreamed of, full of light, space to work, and happy moments. You succeeded because you believed." When she finished, a shiver ran through her body. It was as if for a few moments she had truly spoken with the version of herself already living that reality. Little by little, Olivia noticed her mind changing. She began to see opportunities where she had once seen only obstacles. At her temporary job, for example, instead of complaining about the routine, she started observing clients with curiosity. She asked about their tastes, offered creative suggestions, and let her passion for interior design shine. To her surprise, some clients began requesting her personal contact, interested in small consulting projects. At first, she hesitated. Did she have the ability to take on work independently? But she remembered the affirmations she had been writing. "I am talented and creative. The universe sends me ideal clients." She decided to accept the first challenges. They were small jobs, helping redecorate a living room, suggesting colors for an office, choosing furniture for a bedroom. But every time she delivered a project, she received praise that made her believe even more in her potential. Still, the tests continued. A few weeks later, the store where she worked announced staff cuts. Olivia was among those laid off. When she received the news, she felt the ground shake again. How would she pay her bills without that job, even if it was poorly paid? That day, she left the store with tears in her eyes. She walked the streets aimlessly, feeling lost. But instead of sinking into despair like before, she decided to do something different. She entered a cafe, ordered a cappuccino, and opened her notebook. She wrote, "Thank you, universe, for freeing me from something small to make room for something bigger." It was an act of faith, almost irrational, but it brought her calm. Instead of seeing the layoff as the end, she chose to view it as a transition. In the following days, she devoted more time to side design projects. She created a simple portfolio, shared her contact with acquaintances, and even posted some photos of her projects on social media. The response was surprising. A former college classmate saw her posts and reached out, offering a partnership on a larger project. It was an opportunity Olivia would never have gotten if she had stayed tied to her old job. At that moment, she realized that the layoff, which had seemed like a cruel blow, was actually an open door. However, Olivia knew she needed to remain steadfast because the universe could still test her many times. The law of attraction was working, yes, but it demanded patience, consistency, and faith. She learned that it wasn't just about wishing, it was about aligning thoughts, emotions, and actions. And so, amidst ups and downs, Olivia continued her journey. With every test overcome, she felt stronger, more confident. But she also knew that greater challenges were yet to come, situations that would demand not only faith, but courage to take bold steps into the unknown. What Olivia did not yet know was that the next challenge would come in an unexpected form. An opportunity that seemed too big for someone like her, but could forever change the course of her life. The following days became a routine of discipline and quiet faith. Olivia woke early, even before sunrise, prepared her simple coffee, and sat before the notebook she now called her life map. She wrote in detail what she wanted to experience, not as vague goals, but as if they were already reality. "I am living in my sunny home, with a garden full of white flowers and lavender," she described, feeling the scent that didn't yet exist but seemed to fill the kitchen air. At first, this practice seemed like a mental game, almost childish. But the more she wrote, the more real it became to her. Olivia noticed her mood changing, her posture transforming, and even the way she walked the streets was different. She began to act as if the life she dreamed of was already being lived. One morning, while walking to the bus stop, something caught her attention. A poster pinned to a lamppost advertised a free lecture on mindset and prosperity at a small neighborhood bookstore. In the past, she would have ignored it, thinking she had no time or that it wasn't for her. But something inside Olivia told her this was a sign. On the day of the event, she timidly entered the bookstore, surrounded by people who seemed to be at a much higher level of life than hers. The speaker, a man with a calm and firm voice, began by telling how he had gone from complete bankruptcy to becoming an investor. He spoke about the importance of aligning thoughts, emotions, and actions, exactly what Olivia had been trying to do. Every sentence seemed directed at her. At the end, he suggested that everyone choose a specific goal and begin visualizing it daily, without fail, believing it was already theirs. Olivia returned home with her heart racing. She decided she would no longer just dream, she would commit. She then created a vision board with clippings from old magazines, images of homes, trips, smiling people, and even a picture of a woman writing at a laptop, representing the successful writer she wanted to become. She placed the board on the bedroom wall, right in front of the bed, so it would be the first thing she saw when waking and the last before sleeping. At first, her practical life still seemed the same. Bills kept arriving, her job remained exhausting and low-paying. But something invisible was changing inside her. Olivia no longer complained as before, no longer saw herself as a victim. Now she faced every obstacle as a test to strengthen her faith. On a rainy night, exhausted after a long shift, she decided to sit in front of her old laptop, still barely functioning. Instead of just writing her wishes in the notebook, she began writing short stories. They were stories of overcoming, inspired by fragments of her own life. She didn't know exactly why she was writing, she just felt it was a way to release the creative energy she had accumulated inside. Little by little, Olivia began publishing these texts on a free blog, expecting nothing in return. To her surprise, strangers began commenting, saying how moved they were by her words. One reader even wrote, "You changed my week with this text." This small external validation reignited something in Olivia. Perhaps, after all, life was starting to respond to her new vibrations. And it was at this point that she realized the law of attraction did not manifest magically or instantly, but through small signs, opportunities, and people appearing along the way, almost as if the universe were guiding each step. What Olivia did not yet know was that her first major quantum leap was about to happen. In the following months, Olivia continued her daily practice with even greater discipline. Every morning was dedicated to visualizations, affirmations, and a silent dialogue with the universe. At night, before going to sleep, she would reread the letters she wrote to herself, imagining living the life she so deeply desired. It was a constant effort, but something inside her had already changed, permanently, her perception. Financial difficulties still existed, but they no longer crushed her. Now each problem seemed like a test to keep her faith strong. One day, an unexpected opportunity arose. An old university professor whom she hadn't seen in years reached out via LinkedIn. He commented on one of her posts about design and asked if Olivia would be interested in collaborating on a consulting project for a small corporate office that was renovating its space. The offer seemed modest, but it represented exactly the kind of work she had always dreamed of doing. Olivia felt a mix of surprise and fear. The salary wasn't high, but the experience could open doors. She remembered all the visualizations and affirmations she had been practicing and decided to accept. When the negotiation was finalized, something inside her lit up. Every step she had taken, every daily practice, was finally connecting to concrete opportunities. The project started modestly, but Olivia quickly stood out. Her creativity, attention to detail, and ability to listen to the client's needs impressed everyone around her.
She realized that the confidence she had been cultivating internally was beginning to reflect externally. It wasn't just the universe responding to her visualizations, it was also herself, now aligned with her best version, acting coherently and inspiringly. Soon after, a satisfied client recommended her work for a larger project, involving a small chain of cafes opening branches in her city. Suddenly, Olivia found herself facing a flow of opportunities she had never imagined. Each completed project was a firm step toward the life she had mentally designed. Meanwhile, small manifestations began to occur in other areas of her life. The old credit card debt, which had once seemed overwhelming, was completely renegotiated and paid off, almost effortlessly, as if the solution had appeared out of nowhere. Friends and acquaintances began to notice her transformation. Simple but sincere comments arrived daily. "You seem like a different person," they said, "more confident, lighter, happier." One of the most striking signs occurred on a Saturday morning when Olivia decided to visit the local bookstore. On impulse, she walked to the self-development section and found an old, almost forgotten book with advanced tips on the law of attraction and how to apply visualizations practically. It was as if the book had been placed there just for her. She bought it and that night absorbed every page, taking notes on insights and new techniques she would soon apply. Between design projects and daily reading, Olivia began to notice something fascinating. Small coincidences that would once have seemed normal now carried meaning. A client called on the exact day she had been thinking of sending a proposal. A friend called with a job tip when she felt uncertain about her next step. An opportunity appeared exactly when she needed it. Every event reinforced her belief that she was on the right path. However, Olivia knew there was still an internal barrier to overcome, the fear of not being enough. Each new, larger project brought with it the anxiety of failure. She asked herself, "What if I'm not ready? What if someone discovers I'm not as talented as I thought?" It was at this point that she realized the law of attraction wasn't just about attracting external opportunities, but also about transforming the inner mind. It required believing not only in the results, but also in her own ability to receive and honor them. To handle this, Olivia incorporated a new practice. Every day, in addition to her visualizations, she wrote a small paragraph acknowledging her achievements. She noted every compliment, every small victory, every satisfied client. This practice strengthened her self-confidence and began dissolving her anxiety. And then, finally, something extraordinary happened. One of the cafe chains Olivia had worked with decided to expand and hire her officially as a design consultant for all the branches in her city. The salary was far higher than she had ever imagined earning at that point in her life. But, more importantly, it was a concrete validation that her efforts and her faith were working. Upon receiving the news, Olivia felt a wave of emotion that left her speechless. For the first time in years, she felt that every step she had taken had been worth it. Every moment of doubt, every tear, every fear faced, it all converged at that point. She knew it was only the beginning, but the sign was clear. The law of attraction worked, and she was living tangible proof of its effectiveness. Amid her projects and professional achievements, Olivia continued nurturing her personal life with the same attention. She kept her vision board updated, reviewed her affirmations daily, and dedicated moments to meditate on gratitude. The sense of emptiness and despair that had once dominated her had disappeared, replaced by serene confidence and a quiet but constant joy. As her life changed, Olivia began to notice another transformation, the way she related to the world. She became more patient, attentive, and compassionate. Her empathy grew, and she began feeling connected to others in ways she had never understood before. She discovered that by elevating her own energy, she positively influenced those around her. And it was at this point that Olivia realized that true change wasn't just in material achievements, but in the complete transformation of her mind and spirit. She understood that the law of attraction wasn't a magic formula, but a path of inner alignment that reflected externally, opening doors and opportunities.
Despite the initial big results, Olivia's life was about to test her faith in a way she had never imagined. After weeks of success with design projects and small signs of positive manifestation, an unexpected situation arose, a major opportunity that simultaneously brought deep, almost paralyzing fear. A renowned international design company contacted Olivia. They had learned of her work through recommendations and the portfolio she had posted online. They wanted to hire her to coordinate the redesign of a series of corporate offices across the city. It was the type of project any designer would dream of: prestige, visibility, and compensation that could change her life forever. When Olivia received the email, she felt intense joy, but it was quickly replaced by anxiety. She began to doubt herself. Can I really do this? What if I fail? What if they discover I'm not as good as they think? Those questions echoed in her mind like insistent thunder, threatening to destroy the confidence she had been building for months. For a few days, Olivia considered declining the project. She thought about continuing with smaller, safer jobs where nothing major could go wrong. But at the same time, she remembered all the signs and small manifestations the law of attraction had already provided in her life. Every achievement, every opportunity that had appeared unexpectedly was proof that something greater was at work. She decided to face the fear head-on. She created an even more intense routine of visualization and affirmations. Every morning, she imagined herself coordinating the projects confidently, being praised by clients, feeling accomplished and capable. She wrote phrases like, "I am competent, creative, and capable. This project is mine, and I am ready for it." Each phrase was repeated several times until her voice sounded firm and true, even if internally there were still doubts. On the day of the first meeting with the company, Olivia felt strong nervousness. Her heart raced, her hands sweated, every step felt tense. But as she entered the conference room, she took a deep breath and remembered all the exercises she had been doing. She visualized the perfect scene: smiling clients, herself explaining her ideas clearly, everyone recognizing her talent. And when she began speaking, something surprising happened. The words came out naturally, confidently, articulated in a way that even impressed herself. The meeting was a success. The executives were delighted with her ideas and creative vision. At the end, they agreed to start the project immediately. Olivia left the meeting with a mix of euphoria and relief, but also aware that this was only the beginning of something greater. Even with this victory, the emotional challenge persisted. In the following days, the project demanded full attention, constant meetings, and complex decisions. The pressure was intense, and at times Olivia feared that any mistake could compromise everything. But it was during this period that she truly understood the power of the law of attraction. It wasn't just about wanting something or visualizing it, but maintaining faith and confidence even in situations that seemed frightening. She continued her daily practices, but added a new element: deep meditation. Every night, she would sit on the floor of her apartment, close her eyes, and connect with the feeling of already achieved her goals. She breathed deeply, imagining success flowing naturally, as if everything were perfectly aligned. This brought a state of calm that reflected in her daily decisions and actions. Beyond professional challenges, Olivia's personal life also tested her. An old relationship, which had ended traumatically years before, resurfaced unexpectedly. Contact from her ex brought up feelings she believed she had overcome: doubts, insecurities, fear of repeating past mistakes. Olivia had to deal with these emotions without letting them interfere with her progress. Again, she applied what she had been learning: visualization, affirmations, and focus on what she wanted for herself.
Every day, she spent a few minutes imagining healthy relationships, clear communication, and balanced emotions. She learned that the law of attraction wasn't limited to material or professional aspects. It also involved emotional transformation and inner alignment. It was during this time that small miracles began to happen in almost surprising ways. A college friend, now an architect, reached out offering help with a technical aspect of the project Olivia had not yet fully mastered. A supplier who used to delay deliveries became extremely punctual and cooperative. Everything seemed to conspire in Olivia's favor, as if the universe were testing her ability to remain steadfast and trust the process. With each small victory, Olivia's confidence grew. She began to realize that fear was only a sign that she was about to expand her limits. Each challenge, each situation that would have previously been paralyzing, now became an opportunity for growth. One of the most remarkable experiences occurred during a visit to the largest office she was redesigning. Olivia had imagined the space daily, but seeing it physically was still different. Every detail, the lighting, the furniture, the arrangement of colors, had to be decided with precision. The pressure could have overwhelmed her, but she stayed focused on her visualizations and the feeling of success. When the project was completed, the clients were moved, and for the first time, Olivia felt she had manifested something tangible through the law of attraction. The following weeks brought new challenges, but also new manifestations. Opportunities continued to appear unexpectedly, but the difference now was that Olivia was emotionally prepared to receive them. She understood that constant faith, persistence, and coherent action were essential to turning dreams into reality. At the end of this period, Olivia realized something transformative. It wasn't just the projects, the compliments, or the money that changed her life. It was the perception that each experience, each challenge overcome, made her a stronger, more confident, and more aligned version of her true self. The law of attraction wasn't magic, but a constant practice of awareness, intention, and aligned action. And it was exactly at this point that Olivia realized she was ready for the next phase of her life. A phase of even greater achievements, bolder dreams, and profound transformations, both personal and professional. She knew the universe still had surprises in store, but now she possessed the emotional and mental tools to receive everything without fear.
After months of dedication, Olivia began to notice that her life was transforming in ways far more intense than she had imagined. The small signs and initial achievements were now becoming concrete evidence that the law of attraction worked in a deep and comprehensive way. Her confidence was no longer just a feeling, it was visible in the results appearing before her eyes. The first major milestone was financial. The consulting project for the cafe chain expanded rapidly. What had initially been a single branch became a contract for the entire network, including new stores opening in the city. As a result, Olivia's income nearly quadrupled in a few months. But it wasn't just the money that made a difference, it was the sense of recognition and appreciation. For the first time, she felt that her skills were valued exactly as they were, fueling her self-esteem and confidence even further. Beyond finances, her personal life also began to align with her deepest desires. Olivia had always dreamed of a sunlit home, a spacious place full of natural light and plants that radiated life. One day, while walking through a neighborhood she had always admired, she spotted a listing that caught her attention. An old house for sale with great potential on a quiet, tree-lined street. It was exactly as she had visualized so many times on her vision board. Her heart raced, and for a moment, Olivia could hardly believe it. But recalling her visualization practices, she took a deep breath and repeated mentally, "This is the house I have chosen. It is mine, and everything will align so I can receive it." In the following days, Olivia began the negotiation process.
To her surprise, the owner was willing to accept flexible terms, and the financing that had seemed impossible months earlier was approved without complications. When she signed the papers, Olivia felt an intense wave of emotion. Tears of gratitude rolled down her face. Every visualization, every affirmation, every letter she had written to herself had materialized almost perfectly. Meanwhile, her career continued to evolve. The visibility gained through her design projects caught the attention of a local architecture magazine, which invited Olivia to write a monthly column on trends and creativity. Publishing her articles and sharing her experience with a wider audience brought not only professional recognition, but also a sense of purpose. She wasn't just receiving opportunities, she was creating a real impact in the lives of others. Olivia's social life also underwent positive transformations. Friends and colleagues began noticing her different energy, more confident and inspiring. Invited to events, meetings, and gatherings, Olivia connected with people who shared her vision of growth and transformation. Each relationship became an opportunity for learning, collaboration, and expansion, reinforcing the understanding that the law of attraction operated on all levels of life: professional, personal, and emotional. One of the most remarkable moments of this phase occurred when Olivia decided to host a small gathering at her new home. She invited friends, colleagues, and close clients. Walking through the space that was now hers, decorated exactly as she had visualized countless times, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment and gratitude. The scent of flowers, the sunlight, the carefully chosen decor, everything seemed synchronized with the energy she had been cultivating for months. During the evening, while talking with friends, Olivia realized that it wasn't just her external life that had changed. The most significant transformation was within her. Her mind, once anxious and full of doubts, now operated in harmony with her desires. She could make decisions clearly, handle challenges without fear, and maintain steady confidence even in the face of unexpected events. Reflecting on the entire process, Olivia realized that every step had been essential. The early small manifestations, the tests from the universe, the emotional challenges, all had been part of a larger plan preparing her to receive the great achievements. She understood that the law of attraction wasn't about luck or coincidence, but about deep alignment between intention, emotion, and action. Beyond material and professional achievements, Olivia also began exploring subtler aspects of the law of attraction. Meditation, gratitude, and connection with her intuition became central practices. She realized that by raising her energy and maintaining consistent positive thoughts, she attracted situations, people, and opportunities that reinforced her growth. Small coincidences were now seen as signs guiding her toward new accomplishments. On the emotional level, Olivia found a balance that had once seemed impossible. The constant fear of failure, anxiety, and insecurity began to fade. She allowed herself to feel full gratitude for the present without depending on future results to validate her happiness. This inner change directly reflected in her daily life, making each moment lighter, more conscious, and more fulfilling. An unexpected event symbolized this transformation. During a visit to a design conference, Olivia met a renowned mentor, someone who had inspired her from the early days of learning. He praised her work, offered valuable advice, and suggested a partnership on an even larger project with national reach. It was an opportunity that years earlier would have seemed unattainable. Now, Olivia received it with confidence, knowing she was emotionally, mentally, and professionally prepared to embrace it. This phase of Olivia's life demonstrated that the results of the law of attraction are not limited to material gains. Each victory, each tangible manifestation, was accompanied with internal growth, skill development, and emotional transformation. She understood that when aligned with one's desires, with faith and coherent action, the universe responds in amplified ways, offering not only what is desired, but the strength needed to sustain those achievements. By the end of that year, Olivia looked at her life with remarkable clarity. From the first days of visualizations and affirmations to large-scale projects and her dream home, every step was part of a continuous process of expansion. She had learned that the law of attraction worked not only for superficial goals, but for the complete transformation of life, including self-esteem, self-confidence, relationships, career, and emotional well-being. What Olivia did not yet know was that her story still held even more intense and surprising chapters. Great dreams were yet to come, and the universe would continue to test and reward her faith in increasingly impressive ways. But at that moment, she could already say with certainty, the law of attraction works, and her life was living proof of it. Olivia was no longer the same woman who, months ago, had felt lost amid financial, emotional, and professional challenges. Every step she had taken, every visualization practice, every written affirmation, and every challenge faced had been instruments shaping her new reality. Now, life seemed to unfold exactly as she had dreamed, but in an even richer and deeper way than she had imagined. The first clear sign that the manifestation was complete came on a spring morning when Olivia woke up early, before sunrise, to review her vision board. As she looked at the images, she felt such intense emotion that tears of gratitude streamed down her face. Every detail she had visualized, the house filled with light, the flowering garden, the spacious and welcoming rooms, was there materialized before her eyes. But the true transformation was not just in her external reality, but in the woman she had become. Olivia now possessed full confidence in herself, the emotional capacity to face any challenge, and the clarity to recognize opportunities even in the most unexpected situations. Reflecting on the entire process, Olivia realized that every step had been essential. The early small manifestations, the tests from the universe, the emotional challenges, all had been part of a larger plan, preparing her to receive the great achievements. She understood that the law of attraction wasn't about luck or coincidence, but about deep alignment between intention, emotion, and action. Beyond material and professional achievements, Olivia also began exploring subtler aspects of the law of attraction. Meditation, gratitude, and connection with her intuition became central practices. She realized that by raising her energy and maintaining consistent positive thoughts, she attracted situations, people, and opportunities that reinforced her growth. Small coincidences were now seen as signs guiding her toward new accomplishments. On the emotional level, Olivia found a balance that had once seemed impossible. The constant fear of failure, anxiety, and insecurity began to fade. She allowed herself to feel full gratitude for the present without depending on future results to validate her happiness. This inner change directly reflected in her daily life, making each moment lighter, more conscious, and more fulfilling. An unexpected event symbolized this transformation. During a visit to a design conference, Olivia met a renowned mentor, someone who had inspired her from the early days of learning. He praised her work, offered valuable advice, and suggested a partnership on an even larger project with national reach. It was an opportunity that, years earlier, would have seemed unattainable. Now, Olivia received it with confidence, knowing she was